God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Another way to think about this opening phrase in Genesis is this way. The universe slumbered before time began until suddenly, with an explosive bang of energy, everything awakened. "What am I doing here?" God asked, like a groggy child suddenly awakened from a dream. "Oh yes," they said, "I remember now. I'm creating a new reality." The biblical God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-present. Unfortunately, those traits are embodied in the imagery of a human-like God with human emotions and needs. Today, most people still imagine God as a Monty Python-esque bearded white guy in the clouds. This image is problematic for many present-day believers who desire a less superstitious, more universal, less white version of God. So, to help retire this Monty Python-esque idea that we have here, we're still discussing God as the pervasive, intelligent, and self-aware energy of creation. But instead of anthropomorphizing him, we're considering God as the fundamental, underlying creative energy of reality. Consciousness with a capital C, or universal consciousness. Think of God this way. Tables and chairs are often constructed from the wood of trees, but the trees themselves, like everything material, including us, are merely a mass of atomic particles. Those atomic particles are all connected through a quantum primary energy source that we know exists. I contend that this quantum source is aware of its own being and the beings that exist within it. Matter does not exist without the pervasive essence of the conscious universe, which doesn't create matter so much as it becomes matter, and can experience what it becomes both as subject and objective viewer. God as an objective viewer is important because it removes our inclination to make God as judgmental as we. God is creator and sustainer, but never judge and jury. That's an ancient theology for a world that hasn't existed for thousands of years. And hanging on to God as judge of our eternal soul damages our consciousness. Christians in particular have been poisoning our minds with bad theology and destroying the universe with the bad behavior it causes. We have mentally separated ourselves from God, but God has not separated themselves from us because that's impossible. God is integral to our existence, to the existence of any reality. We are not born, we do not breathe, think, eat, swim, or even die without God as part of the process. I mean, it's right there from the first words in Genesis that talk about consciousness exploding into self-awareness. Based on even older ancient Middle Eastern creation texts, the Genesis creation myth begins, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." But that's not really the beginning, is it? Because the beginning has to be somehow the creation of God. So, in the beginning, God created the universe. Fantastic! What was God doing before that? Did God even exist? Was there ever a time when there was nothing, just emptiness somehow, with nothing inhabiting it, not even God? If so, then what created God? Well, science helps us out here, because the current science suggests there was never nothing, but that before the Big Bang, reality was in stasis, just sort of sitting there waiting to be born. Why? What finally got things moving to the point that our ancestors wrote, "In the beginning, God created the cosmos and everything in it"? Well, once again, consciousness, as the foundational creative force of reality, provides a tidy, reasonably satisfying answer. Before the beginning, in the prologue to reality as we know it, God was pure consciousness. In fact, Consciousness is all that initially existed. There was never a time of nothing. There was only a time of consciousness, not yet aware of its own existence. It's just sitting there, all alone in the unaware void. There wasn't anything physical at this time. There wasn't even any sense of time, really, although time, like gravity and magnetism, is a very real force. There were no galaxies, there were no stars, no Earth, and nobody here to even ponder what it all means. Before the beginning, there is only consciousness, pure, unadulterated, super concentrated into a zero-point energy source. Our ancestors intuitively thought the same thing, even if they did start Genesis in the middle of the story. But in Psalm 78, there is an undeniable reference to God as waking up, becoming self-aware. In Psalm 78, chapter 78, then the Lord awoke as from sleep, as a warrior wakes from the stupor of wine. God wakes up as the conscious, creative fundamental of existence, the original and only consciousness of reality. God is not a being, but all being. God is the flesh and blood of all living creatures, of all people and every ethnicity. God is the salmon and the swallow, the bark and sap of every tree, the atomic particles of the quartz and feldspar that make granite. God is everything and is aware of everything because everything is God. In that nanosecond of God's awakening, the entire supercondensed pre-aware conscious energy explodes into reality, becoming the material world. Not creating the material world, becoming it. This big bang of self-awareness creates all the physical elements: hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, the atomic and subatomic particles like electrons and neutrons and quarks and antiquarks and muons and gluons, everything necessary to create universes and stars and planets and humans who will eventually evolve to the point they can recognize this pervasive thread of consciousness in creation and begin to reconnect to the mind of God from which they evolved. The Big Bang is pretty near a perfect way to describe the unimaginably tremendous force of God's conscious cosmic self-realization that continues to expand our universe into the outermost reaches of reality. It's almost as if the universe is exploring its potential, finding ways to know itself, as Carl Sagan once suggested. We are the inheritors of God's cosmic DNA. We very literally have bits of the ancient universe within us. Even more astoundingly, everything has God within because all that exists, seen and unseen, is the result of the Big Bang, itself a cosmic self-awareness event. The birth not only of the universe, but of God's creativity. Amen. Our question today is, how do you reconcile the God of Genesis with the fact of the Big Bang? How do the creation stories of the Bible jive with your understanding of creation here? And does consciousness help with that exploration? How do you reconcile Genesis and the Big Bang? And maybe you don't, that's fine too. I'll send you into breakout rooms for just a few moments, and then we will get back together to discuss. If you'll take some notes while you're in the breakout rooms, that would be great so that we can share them when we gather back here. Everybody should be assigned a room. If you have problems, I'll be here. Just let me know. Have great discussions, my friends. Thanks so much. See you soon.